Hi everyone, it's Liesl. A few days ago I posted a video of this little stab stitch journal or booklet that I had made, and I had quite a few questions about the construction and the stitch. Now the stitch is actually much easier than it looks from the pictures, but I want to just spend a few minutes talking about the different options in terms of construction and what you can do to give this book a bit of an extra longevity. So as you will have noticed, this is a hardcover little booklet, and it has a gusset here because it needs to be able to fold open. It is bound tight here, and as you can see, there isn't really much scope for three-dimensional embellishment unless you like the alligator mouth look, which sometimes is really cute. So it's really up to you, but as you would have seen, I just stamped all over it to give it some extra decoration. Now these booklets can be made either with a soft cover, i.e. your paper is just bound and you make a little template, and I'll talk about that, but it'll be bound here and you can just fold it open as you work through it. However, when you have a hardcover, you can't have a solid, grab here, you can't have a solid cover because it'll want to open here, and if that is on the edge, your stitching is in the way. So it will not be possible to open it like that. So what you need is a little gully between two parts that make up the cover. So I just quickly want to run through that. An important part of this construction is Tyvek, which I love, and I'm just going to leave there so to help with your view. And what you do, this little book is a 6x4, so I'm just going to talk about these dimensions, but you can really do this for any kind of dimension. You want at least a 1/4 inch between the part where the binding is and the bit that needs to fold open. So if you are making a 4x6 and it's going to be horizontal like this, you will cut a piece of cardboard, and this is 2mm cardboard, 2 cereal box pieces glued together would be similar. Cut it a 1/4 inch shorter than the actual booklet is going to be, and then I cut at 3/4 inch. I cut between the two pieces, and then I glued them. I just used double-sided tape. I glued them to a piece of Tyvek with a 1/4 inch in between, so that now, let's hope I got these measurements right, but this should now roughly be 6 inches. With a 1/4 inch, you can see here, there, a 1/4 inch between the two pieces, and that one, oops, I've got a horrible glare there, 3/4 inch for this piece and a 1/4 inch there, and then the rest is the 4 inches. 5 and 1 gives you 6. So that is what I do, so that when you want to open it, you've got the Tyvek that gives extra strength and longevity to your hinge, because you need this hinge to be able to open the book. And when I make normal journals, I usually have my outside and the spine and another cover that goes here, and I attach my Tyvek to the outside of my journal because my journal flaps open this way and the most pressure is on the outside curve of the corner. However, with these books, as you can see here, the pressure is on the inside because that's where the stretching is happening. So when you eventually bind your booklet, remember to put the Tyvek on the inside. So if these were my pages, and they're not the same measurement, but let's just use them, I would bind it like this, not like that, because when I open it here, there's no pressure on this side because the paper is not really being stretched. The pressure is on this side where the stretching happens. So you want to bind it with your hardcover laid out so that the Tyvek is on the inside where the pressure is on the hinge. And you would do the same for the back piece, because if you were to open the back, you would again have the pressure on the inside of the booklet and not on the outside. The outside becomes the inside corner and the inside becomes the outside corner for the Tyvek. So just remember to do that. I found quite a helpful insight. So that was the one main thing that I wanted to discuss with you, was just the placing of your Tyvek. Then in terms of the stitch, this is a really easy stitch, really. If you can do a running stitch, which is just in and out and in and out. What it is a running stitch going back on itself, like this. All right. That is the main part of the stitch. But at the same time, and I just need to pull all this out, it is combined with a loop. Let me just get my thread right. So really what the stab stitch is, it's a running stitch combined with the loop. If you can do that, and you can do a running stitch, you're almost there. So what you want to do, and once I'd figured that out, this binding method really became easy for me. I generally don't start at the top because I want to end at the top so that I can make a little bow here, as I did with this one. Is start in the second hole from the top. Oh, and before we go there, before I jump to the end, make yourself a little template. You know, I love templates for my binding. Make yourself a template. Measure out where you want your holes. I like 4 holes for this kind of size, but if it were larger, I'd probably make more. And you lay your template down. I've got all my pages here. You lay your template down, and if you are just going to use thread, then an awl, a nice sharp awl, will do the trick, and you can lay it down and punch your holes right through. If you're going to use something like ribbon or wool thread or something that's thicker, then you might want to mark where your holes are going to be with this and just a pen, and then just clip them together. And using a drill, so raid your husband or your partner or a brother or a cousin or whoever has a drill with a really small drill bit, and drill your holes so that they are larger, because my awl, I think that's about 2, maybe 2.5 millimeters, and it just isn't enough for me to thread ribbon or something like that through. So a Dremel tool will also work really well. But mark your, so you would just mark these with a pen, find a pen, just hold it there, mark your holes, and then you would use a drill and just drill through them. And that will give you slightly larger holes that you could use all kinds of fancy things to actually bind your book with. And I think that ribbon would actually be really pretty. So that I just wanted to talk about quickly. So once you have made your holes and you've got all the pages that are going inside, assuming that this is a little stack like that, so we're just going to use the single one because it's easier for me to pull the thread out. I like to start, let me find my needle, I like to start in the second hole from the top, and you start and leave a bit of a tail. Start with a loop. There's your loop. This looks like blanket stitch, but it actually has absolutely nothing to do with blanket stitch. You have your loop, so a running stitch. There you go. And a loop. And don't worry about that gap. We're going to double back on ourselves just now. So a running stitch and a loop. When you get to the end, you can see here, you have a little loop that goes around the outside edge. It's really pretty and it gives a very decorative effect. So you've made your loop across the back. You make a second loop, and instead of positioning it there, you position it to the edge. There you are. So then we are just going to double back on ourselves with a running stitch and try not to get stuck there. And here where I said we would be getting back, no loop, because you've got a loop already. You just keep doing your running stitch. There we are. And then you want to get to this hole because we need to put a loop here and here. So a running stitch to there, and then a loop, and you need a little loop over the edge like that. So you'll make a loop, and that loop could quite easily go there, but obviously go there. Sorry, must remain in frame, but you want it here. So just position it where you want it. There you go. And there is your stitching. And all you need to do then is make a little knot, put some beading on, leave it as it is, whatever. So you'll just tie it together. No, I'm all thumbs. Let me take the needle off and just knot it all together and decide what you want to do with your tails. Trim it down, and there is your little booklet with your tails on the outside. So you always start from the outside. I always start from the outside and start from the second hole. Do a loop, a running stitch, a loop, a running stitch, a loop, a loop. Always 2 loops from the last hole. And then just running stitch all the way back until you get to a hole where there isn't a loop. Go through it, make a loop, and if it's the top hole, make another one for the top edge and tie them together. And that, I hope, has answered the questions that you all had. I made a list here for myself of what I wanted to tell you, and it looks as though I've basically told you everything. Another thing that might help you strengthen if you are using a hardcover and you have this hinge that might strengthen this is, of course, if you use some Mod Podge or multi-medium over it, because I find that that gives the paper more flexibility. But either way, you could use a soft cover or a hard cover. A soft cover obviously has much less construction to it. And of course, I know someone's going to ask, I do not use it like this. Once I've put the Tyvek onto my cardboard, I cover it with brown paper, ink it to within an inch of its life, and then cover it with whatever decorative paper. And because the paper is almost the same size as the cover, you don't see any of the workings. It all just looks rather seamless. So that's it. Thanks for bearing with me. And if you have any questions, please just put them in the comments below and I'll try to get back to you with whatever I know. Thanks everyone. Until we speak again. Bye-bye.